Hello, greetings to my lovely viewers tonight. I speak your true family, National Parents Union. Our family, we're grateful to have another segment tonight with a friend of mine that I was in prison with at one time by the name of Donald Kagan, a good friend, and he's been through a lot of experiences throughout the COVID, throughout COVID, and the whole pandemic, and then coming from there and coming back home now. So I wanted to do an interview with him tonight, and Vivett and I, we're glad to have him here, as well as having you all here. With that being said, I'm gonna bring on Don right now. He'll be coming in so we can talk. Don, how you doing, Don? I,
I'm
yeah,
great. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'm grateful to have you. There's so much to talk about, and one of the things that I wanted to bring up was COVID and how you managed to just get through that. And how was it? Is my question. How was that for you to get through that while you were incarcerated?
Well, I mean, it's it's an experience, I mean, like, it's something. Even the jail experience, which is very different, and it would
Yeah,
throw a worldwide pandemic, into the mix, and it becomes even, more surreal and unbelievable. I mean, from the gods, and how they were, sort of fearful of us, and when what would mean we might bring them when we're actually not going anywhere, we're not leaving. So we're
yeah.
really more worried about what they're going to come in and bring to us. And,
I
you
could
know,
imagine because I know my experience of being incarcerated. A lot of times when we think about the flu season, there were a lot of things that we would receive because of the officers would bring them in, or any civilian for that matter. Where the 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 irony to it is that they would actually come in, they meaning the COs would actually try to say that we're giving them the disease, or we're bringing in all this anything that came from the outside. When, like you said, we're locked in there. But and we knew the difference, we knew the truth of it. But the point that I think a lot of people would like to know, I think, about COVID, especially being inside there, was that what were some of the ways that they tried to combat that? Because they told the public a lot of stories, and we know that there's two sides to those stories. You know,
yeah. I mean, one thing that COVID did, which is sort of ironic, is, I mean, it all of a sudden, the criminal justice system wanted to look into who was a good candidate to be released, when the whole time a lot of people that were inside were good candidates to be released from the beginning. But now it became sort of a definitely a financial strain, and it became, obviously they're not able to adequately social distance, people that are incarcerated, and provide them with the proper PPE, and so now they were trying to reimagine everything. And okay, this person, he wouldn't be too much of a risk if we released him or her. Um, when, like I said, I mean, the whole time, you know, these are people that were always good candidates to be released, whether
yeah.
on parole violations or whatever they were, minor, nonviolent crimes or whatever. So it's I don't know. There was there's a lot with it that that should have been done before. It didn't take a pandemic to try to realize, who was good and who was bad for possible release.
No, I agree. Something that came to my mind while you were speaking is about the distancing. Social distancing is like a joke, to put it mildly, in prison. Would you care to explain to the viewers how was that for you, and just describe a little bit of how prison is designed, where when they're talking about social distancing for our viewers.
Well, I mean, if you're in a dorm and you're just, a few feet from the next person, not 6 feet from the next person, and they're I mean, a person, is coughing and sneezing and, laying in their bed and, and you're right there. I mean, there's nothing that you can do, and they try to come up with ways. Oh, everybody sleep head to toe, one person in that bed sleep, head facing this, and the other person sleep with their head towards the end of the bed that way. And I mean, all impractical. We're all going to eat together. We're all going to recreation together. We're all sharing the same shower facilities, the same bathroom
Wait a minute right
facilities.
there. Wait a minute right there. I have to jump in right there because like this sounds so crazy because first of all, you started off pretty good saying, well, they're trying to diffuse it or trying to contain it by sleeping this way, sleeping that way. But now you're saying that you're still eating your meals together, still taking showers in the same place without it being thoroughly clean. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they would run out of cleaning supplies. We are asking, obviously we need everything to be sanitized regularly,
Absolutely.
more often than they were, according to their normal schedule. And they'd run out of cleaning supplies, I mean, we're out of bleach, we're out of this, we're out of that. No gloves, no masks, although I heard later on they did supply masks,
But not you
to
was there.
no, it's just, the guards, obviously the COs had masks, that wasn't a problem, Um, they had hand sanitizer, they had, but they worry about things like, oh, hand sanitizer contains alcohol, and alcohol, is a contraband, but I mean, that's all fine and dandy in practical, in regular corrections, but
Yeah.
this is corrections 2020, that it's
Yeah.
nothing is the same. Like for the entire world, nothing is as it was. So
It's true. It's true. I mean, look at the way that we have to do not only interviews but just daily living with what we use now, Zoom and things like that. The reason why I thought it was very important to speak about COVID-19 and what you went through, because a lot of brothers and sisters they're not here to speak about that. Not just because some of them have passed away, unfortunately, but cameras are not really inside like that. And for you, you actually just came from that situation, like when it was, from my understanding, like when it was, matter of fact, refresh my understanding. When did you come out from that?
April,
In April,
late the end of March, the end of
in
March.
March. So you were in
No,
there at sort of the height of this,
yeah.
and then was able to come home. So with all of that being inside there, I know it's enough. But then to couple that with now a pandemic, I wanted to know, how did you feel about your children? Because you have children. We're going to get into that conversation when my lovely wife comes in a while to start that topic, that about being a father and navigating through that. How do you feel about your children going to school now with what you had to go through with knowing how the government deals with certain things or certain agencies?
Oh, I mean, I'm worried to death. My little one, he's 9. He Christopher, he starts school in person learning tomorrow.
Wow.
My older one, she goes to high school and she doesn't start until October 1st. So, I mean, I, I'm very worried about the preparations that the Department of Education has made. I've working where I work, I get a lot of input from Department of Education staff, particularly teachers who are not happy with what the steps that the mayor and the Department of Education has taken to ensure the safety of the staff and the students. So, that makes me worry. But unfortunately, I work and my wife works, and, we want our kids to have some semblance of normalcy as far as a social life, a school life, because I really don't think they're getting the proper, education through, just remote learning, so.
I mean, I'm not going to speak. I can't speak to that right now. I would much rather my lovely wife come in and speak to that. But I just wanted to
Definitely.
ask you that because I know that that has to be on weighing heavily on the forefront of your mind because you've already experienced it in a terrible situation, and then now you have to go through it now with your children. So I'm thank you for sharing that with us. And
Yeah, definitely.
with that being said, I would ask for Vet when she gets ready that she's able to come in. I want to invite her onto the show now. Hello. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi,
How are you, Donald?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to see you. I heard so much
Okay.
about you from John when you both were inside, and then once he came home and you were still inside, I still heard about Don. You got to meet my friend Donald. He's a good brother. The music you would put him on to, and playing just the conversations you both had. So
Luther Vandross.
he was playing that in the house the other day, and he's like, "My man Don put me on to this album." Just to see you both out is such a blessing.
Definitely.
I think I am a teacher in the Department of Education. I teach high school English. And to hear you talk about your concerns about your children going to school, they're real. They're real. And I know there's a lot going on. We have elections coming up. We still are in the midst of a pandemic. And it seems like we as a society don't know where to give our attention. But we do need to discuss what's going on with our kids. How have they been, like, just with the remote learning aspect of it? Are they getting asynchronous instruction? Are they getting the follow-up? Are any of the things that you saw in the spring, have they been corrected now that we've had some months to get it right?
I I don't see much of a difference from the spring, me personally. And I mean, I'm lucky enough that I have a high schooler who's old enough to supervise my younger one and watch them while me and my wife are at work. But at the same time, she's doing her remote learning. So she can't be responsible for my younger one doing his remote learning. So to expect the 9-year-old to go in and out of Zoom sessions and handle, it's just not very practical. They should have come up with a better system for younger children to really get into these classes and to handle the work that's expected of them. Because, I mean, there are plenty of essential workers out there, like my wife and myself, that have to be at work. And obviously, we need to support our families. So we can't be there to do what the Department of Education is supposed to be doing. I'm really not happy with how I didn't see much of an improvement from last school year to this school year.
And that's so unfortunate because on the teacher side, that as far as I know, my experience, there were no trainings done over the summer to say, become more tech savvy, really, right? You have to be proficient in Zoom now. And John, you can attest to this because we live together. Last week, I told him, I feel like a first year teacher all over again, because I really am learning a new platform, a new way to present information. So I'm clicking, I'm on there. I'm like, okay, hold on, guys. I'm sharing the screen. It's a lot. And I've had training, not through the DOE, through the National Parents Union trained me. And ironically enough, they're the ones who gave me Zoom training. So I know there were a lot of teachers that just didn't have it. What if they weren't proficient in technology beforehand? Then this really, did a lot of damage. What grade are your children in?
My younger one is in 4th grade, and the older one, she's a sophomore in high school.
Critical
10th grade.
ages, 4th grade, still, I believe they're going to have state tests again. So what's that going to look like?
I have no idea. I really have no idea how,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, we are really invested here at the National Parents Union, just hearing parent voice. And so I want this put out there. This is a real parent with real concerns, an essential worker, and listen to what he's saying. He and his wife and his children are not getting the level of support that they need from the Department of Education. There's a problem there. And we need to really reimagine what education looks like for real, not this fake stuff that's going on. John, did you want to jump in? You look like you wanted to.
No, I was well. You always know me. I was just gonna kind of ask you. Did you hear that Don was saying about how his son, is going back to school tomorrow for the first time in person?
Yes, I know. The younger kids went back last week, and then the high school kids go back on October 1st. So
Isn't it a term called hybrid or something like
the
that?
hybrid. How is the hybrid model working for you with both parents working and with your high school daughter going back to school? Was any consideration made for your schedules?
Well, I mean, it's the blended learning that they have here in New York City is just, uh, I mean, my son starts tomorrow on his in person, and my older one, she starts October 1st. They have different schedules, so the DOE was trying to put something in place, something called learning bridges, where essential workers and some other children of some other populations got preference for the days when they would be doing remote learning, that they would be supervised.
Yes.
And so far, both I'm an essential worker. I work for New York City. My wife is an essential worker. She works for a private organization. But all I got was an email saying, we received your application for Learning Bridges and we'll be in touch. And school has started and still no word of, so it's up to me and my wife and, to try to provide, somebody to come and pick them up. And, even last school year, the teachers, they would send messages going back to the learning itself. They would send messages to my wife or me, oh, Chris is not on, right now, and he needs to do this. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not working right now due to the pandemic, but thankfully, me and my wife are working right now, and we cannot be there to do this. You can't expect, at the time he was a third grader last year, you can't expect him to do all this without, you're not there as a teacher because obviously for obvious reasons, and we're not there because we have to be at work. He's being supervised. He's not alone in the house, right. but my daughter has to do her things as well, for school. So it's just, everything that they put together, it sounds good, but in theory, it's really not working, especially for people that are fortunate enough to be employed right now.
Wow. I really feel for you because I am going through it. I went through it in the spring the same way, the same thing, like just not enough cohesion, not enough transparency, like just not enough concrete steps being taken to really make sure our students and their families and the teachers are well. It's like we're all saying the same thing. This is not working. This is not working. So, well, I wish I could help you in another way. You could tell your daughter if she needs help with her English or anything with her work. I'd be more than
I appreciate it.
Seriously, I'd be more than happy to help her.
I appreciate that.
Because they do need some kind of support. Look at us, even for the viewers. We had technical difficulties before we came on, that we had to go to a hotspot because the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And I see that with a lot of my students now where they're like, sorry, Ms. Dukes, I can't get on. The Wi-Fi, Zoom just kicked me out. or my whole family's home on the Wi-Fi and it's too much. Like we can't upgrade it anymore. We can't afford to. So these are the little nuances that I'm not sure the people making decisions truly understand. And I'm very concerned about what it's going to look like, not now, a year from now, 2 years from now, when this kind of has passed. What is that going to look like for the students' level of understanding and their comprehension? That's my concern.
And I think that's what Don was speaking about earlier. He was saying how this is one of the reasons why he is glad that his son is going to school, because he wants them to have that experience of being, in somewhat in a normal, how we grew up, around people, not just on a screen.
Yeah.
Because we had another guest on last week, and we were speaking about just wearing glasses because of that, because of the need, well, not the need, but because of the screen, looking at the screen so long, and how many people's eyes are getting affected, by it, causing you to wear glasses or to get some type of, it's a lot that goes on with Zoom and the technology. We're grateful for it, but at the same time, we also need to be out there, like how you said you expressed about your son going back to school.
Definitely.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it was like to parent while you were inside, because something common that I have heard and from other people who, students of mine who have parents who were incarcerated, that confided in me about that was, I still love my dad or my mom very much, and it doesn't seem like people understand that. Did you, what was it like for you to parent while you were incarcerated?
Well, I mean, it's of course it's hard to parent without throwing incarceration into the mix. So, with incarceration, of course, I mean, my little one didn't understand it, and of course, it was the whole the thing that unfortunately a lot of incarcerated families have to tell their younger kids, daddy's away at work or daddy's away at college or whatever it may be, and unfortunately, my younger one still doesn't really know everything, and when in time when he's older and he can understand everything, I'll share that with him, because I'm not going to keep anything a secret from him. My older one, of course, she knew, and it's hard, it's like, okay, you're in there's resentment, because I'm not there to do some of the things that their friends fathers are doing with them and everything. I'm not there to do it. I'm not there for bring your child to school day, dads bring their child to school day or whatever it may be. There's a lot of things, teenagers, especially for my older one, they're going through a lot at that age, things are changing, physically, everything, a lot of things are changing in their lives. So to throw that into the mix, it was a burden that I wish they didn't, she didn't have to experience, but me and my wife, luckily, I have a great woman by my side like John does. And, we did the best that we could, given the situation, where, we tried to make them, still feel that love. I was on the phone as much as I could be, letting them know I love them, asking them what happened today, how was school, how was this, how's that, anything you want to talk to me about, you just try to, do the best you can with what you're given, so.
And you know what I've noticed, that the parent-child relationships many times can be a tighter bond, because the parent who's incarcerated puts forth more effort to be in their child's life. So I don't know how many fathers can say, I speak for 30 minutes a day to my child about how their day went and how they're doing. And perspective is so important. So to hear you saying, I touch base all the time. I know parents who are outside, never been incarcerated, and they don't do that. They've never done that. And it's no shade to them, but I think when we think about parenting, and school and just everything, incarcerated parents have never been part of that conversation. So I'm really grateful that the National Parents Union has included formerly incarcerated parents. Like, they are parents too. They've been active members of their children's lives, although they've often been hidden. We might not have seen you, but you were there. And it's
Definitely.
important to know that even for schools now, it's important to know that, like, just don't make assumptions about who comprises a family, or make judgments about a student because of where their parent might be. I've seen it through John. I've seen it through a lot of the guys he's had on this show. I've seen it in you. Like, they're legit parents, yo. They're like, they're doing better than a lot of us out here who have no obstacles preventing us from doing things. I just wanted to, like, really applaud you for stepping up, because on the other side, a lot of students have said, you know, my parent just kind of fell back because they felt so guilty or whatever about not being able to be there, that they thought that I was better off without them around. And that's a different hurt, you know. I don't know that hurt, but I just think our viewers need to become more aware with that intersection of parenting and incarceration, that it does exist. And just because a parent is locked up doesn't mean that they're a piss poor parent. That's not true. We all make mistakes that we regret. None of us are perfect parents. And so I'm happy to have your voice in the conversation. It needs to be more of. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
definitely done, because that's great. That's great stuff. That's good stuff, actually, Vivett. Because I think I think when you hear about the children or even the young adults that said that, well, my dad or my mom wasn't in my life because I was incarcerated, they felt that it was better or whatever their decision was. A lot of times, like, I can't speak for those parents, but I'm saying a lot of times I think what those children are saying is that you don't realize how much you can impact me even from there. You know, it can help me. You can really be a force for me to guide me, whether it's just giving me advice or just listening to me. And I think that a lot of times also, to put a part two to that, is that what you had also mentioned about parents being in the hustle and bustle of life, where they're not able to, well, not they're not able, they don't consider a different perspective on how to raise their children. They're out there just, hey, I provide for them. They have everything at home. I'm doing all of those great things, but they don't spend that half an hour, like you said, that we get to a phone time, like what we would call a click, under the being of incarcerated. I mean, and that time, I didn't even pay attention to it to just now. Like, that's a lot of time that I have had on the phone and spent. Sometimes even now, even though I speak to my daughter every day, or our daughters, I'll call them or I'll text them. It's not as much time that I was able to give them then. It just seems like now it's like, hey, hi, Dad. Okay, I'll see you. And the love is there, but we speak. But those half an hour times, man, those were some real times that we got into really getting to know one another.
Oh.
Yeah. So we've been talking for half an hour right now. Like, look how much we've been there. So imagine you giving your kid every day, or just about every day, calling, talking, like that really means a lot. And when you're incarcerated, I guess you might not pay attention to that because there's so many other things you have to do to just survive. But it's important that you're reaffirmed. How has your reentry been? What has that process been like for you?
I'm lucky to have some good support, positive support from family and friends around me. So everything, I'm blessed. That's all I can say. I've thankfully, I'm working on my education. I'm working on furthering that and getting my master's degree. I already had, so I'm just, I'm lucky. I'm like, thankfully I'm employed, and I mean, obviously, I struggle with some of the things that other people, people that have done a significant amount of time, all struggle with certain things that a lot of times we don't like to speak about. We don't like, because if you've unfortunately, it's sort of the type of thing. If you've never experienced it, it's hard to explain to somebody what that life is like, for years, so I struggle with my own, fight my own battles inside my own head sometimes, but I'm, like I said, I have a good support network, which means everything, and I really can't complain. I mean, even from my parole perspective, they've always, my parole officers have been positive, and trying to help, and where they can, and understanding. If I have to work overtime, I let them know, and there's no problem. As far as, oh, your curfew or this or that, and if I have to do something, go pick up my wife at work and it's late, let them know, okay, because they see, I give them the paychecks whenever they want to pay, the copy of the pay stubs and everything. They see the hours that I'm putting in at work. They see, that when they stop by, I'm home. There's never a problem. So I've already built some level of trust with them, which is always good. So
It's great.
I mean, I really can't. I really can't complain. I know a lot of people have it much rougher. They don't have a support network. They don't have, the financial means because they don't have a job, or they don't have an education, So, I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Well, I want to jump in because you're one of the few men that I've met during my incarceration that actually had education. You know, when you came in, you were already educated, pretty much. You want to say where you were attending at that time, like what?
Oh, no. I mean, I actually came into prison with my bachelor's degree. I already had a bachelor's degree from John Jay College, from CUNY John Jay. I already had which ironically is John Jay College of Criminal Justice, but yeah, I mean, I had, I had a bachelor's degree, and I took some college courses in prison as well, just to further myself. I mean, there wasn't really a master's program that I really felt that I really wanted to attend. I mean, there's very limited. There's really one program that I know of. Maybe there's more by now, but there was one in theology and at Sing Sing for professional studies, I believe, a master's program. But yeah, I always knew when I came home that I was gonna go and pursue my master's. So that's something that I'm working on, now so that I can do that.
We actually took a class together. I remember in Green Haven, the Dutchess Community College class, the
Right.
business class that they had.
Right.
That was one class that they offered, and I think we paid like $275 or something like for that class.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never got my 3 credits, by the way. Like they're there, but I'm saying it never added on to to my degree that I have now. But
Right.
I do remember that class, and I was grateful that we were in it together. And you were into that because it was business, and that's something that I've noticed with a lot of comrades that have been incarcerated or still incarcerated. I just spoke to a gentleman recently. I was telling Vivett about. He's in Elmira, and that was one of his let's say one of his issues with what they give in prison. Like he's like, well, I'm grateful they give a degree and that you're able to go to college. He said, but this is not what I want to do. I want to do something with business. So having a behavioral science degree or a liberal arts degree, he said it really doesn't. It's not something I'm interested in. So he does a lot of studying in his cell, So, but at the end of the day, it reminds me of Good Will Hunting, the movie Good Will Hunting. Like you can be smart, but without that paper, it's good, but people are not going to recognize it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I mean, as far as I find a lot of people in prison tend to want to do the business thing. They want to, you know, a lot of people were good in criminal business doing, you know, before being incarcerated. You know what led to their incarceration. So or people feel that, you know, they don't want to work for somebody else. They want to start their own thing, you know, or maybe the opportunity might not be there because of their you know their conviction to work for somebody else, so they have to start their own thing. So yeah, I mean, I tend, you know, a lot of people tend to, you know, want to pursue the business degree. Me myself, you know, I'm interested in social work. You know, I'm interested in trying to help people actually in reentry. That's really one of my things. Either at-risk youth or a combination, at-risk youth and, you know, people coming home, you know, after lengthy periods of incarceration, because you know, I've taken some courses in drug counseling,
yeah,
and you know, I've always heard people that, you know, say that, you know, you can't understand addiction if you've never been had an addiction. So you know, I feel the same way with you know, with prison. People coming home from prison, you know, nobody can relate to you like somebody that was there, you know. So I'm hoping to be that person that's there to help them.
that's great, man. That's inspiring. I mean, that's something on the lines of what I'm pursuing now, but just with mental health. You know, I'm looking at a job offer right now with dealing with that. So it's great to hear you say that because it is true. They call people like us a credible source, a credible source. You know, so I think that it's not only a need for it. We know that it's a need for it, but there's even a I think that there's even um something that we can offer. Let's say I know there's something we can offer the people that are going through the pandemic with COVID, with being quarantined. There's a lot of people that's falling under that depression and being, you know, have been under the depression. That's why I think you see droves of people coming out in the phase 2, phase 3, or I mean, you know, and so forth. They're coming out. They don't want to wear the mask. They want to have parties. They're just kind of like pushing COVID aside because they want to pursue life. And you and I, on the other hand, have been confined for so long, had the time to deal with ourselves. It was forced upon us, yes, because of where we were stationed at in our life at that time. However, we learned a great deal there on how to deal with ourselves, how to be creative, like Vivett was saying, or on the phone or in letters, and speaking to our loved ones and speaking to our children, and so forth. So I think what you're pursuing is not only admirable, but I think that is needed.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Who feels it knows it. Who feels it knows it, you know. I always say that. So no one can understand. As much as I love John, I don't fully understand what he's been through. I never will. I can only empathize with him for what he's been through. But even sometimes just thinking about it is very difficult for me, just the thought. So if the thought of being incarcerated is so difficult for me, imagine being in it. Like for real, being in it for years upon years. And that really has me interested in like fighting long prison sentences. It's damaging, and it's not really necessary if courses aren't even offered for help. We had Professor Mickey Shaw on the show last week, and you know, she reminded me that none of the funding for college programs in prisons are given by tax dollars. It's private funding. So how much is the state even investing, right? With their job is the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. Who exactly are they correcting, and how are they doing that when they're not even offering basic college coursework? I don't mean your GED. That's not basic. It's 2020. Basic is a bachelor's degree. Basic is about to be a master's degree if we're talking about education, right?
Yeah.
So what are they, and who's really holding them to task about that? If we really want people to come out of prison, to not go back into prison, to come out and thrive and do well and be reformed, committed members of society. How are you going to do that without education and zapping your family for every dollar they have for phone calls and commissary? Like, it's a really vicious cycle that unless you're in it, there's so many layers to it. And it's part of the reason I like to just make people aware on this show. Be aware and put a human face to something. It's so easy to say, lock them up, lock them up. No, it's too much locking up. We need to put the brakes on the locking up. It's way too much, because you have really good men like Donald, like John. Like, did they need to be inside for all that time? I don't think so. I really don't. So I'm super proud of you both. Like, just seeing you out. I couldn't withstand the pandemic. 1 week into the pandemic, no lie, I was like, I can't take it. And John was like, whoa, slow down. First of all, you can go outside. You can go in the car, you can drive, you're free. Stop acting like that. And he really gave me a different perspective. And since then, I've been really like more positive. But at first, it was hard, really hard. Yeah. I'm sorry, baby, you were talking.
I feel like I lost my thought with that one, but I got it back. It's
Okay.
just that what I was gonna say about when you said about people spending a long time incarcerated and how they don't need to be in there. You're not only spot on with that. The thing is that people turn to drugs sometimes, even while they're incarcerated, to numb that pain. So Don and I definitely are miracles walking out of there with our faculties and not being on drugs. I used to look at people that did drugs. Unfortunately, I have sold drugs in a lifetime that I've lived. And I used to look at people that would be on drugs, and I would say, dag, I would never do that, and just look down on them. Just like how some people would say, well, I would never go in prison. That would never be me. And then here I found myself incarcerated. And I said, now I'm not so judgmental towards some of those people that are doing things, because you start seeing really what transpired in their lives. That it wasn't just that they woke up saying that they want to get high, and a lot of it comes from they want to just take a drink at that bar to take away some of the pain, to take away some of the thoughts, and especially when you compile that wherever they came from and now they're incarcerated. So whatever little drugs that do come in that system that we were in, people will gravitate towards that sometime because it's a way to escape for a moment. But that escape, we know, really traps you and locks you not only in there, but even in your body, physically. So I'm grateful you brought that up.
So Don, what advice would you give to people? We have a few minutes left. What advice would you give to people regarding anything we've spoken about tonight, based on your vast experience in life, whether you want to talk about parenting or re-entry, both of which seem to be passions of yours? What would you like to share for someone who may be watching who's struggling?
I mean, just don't give up hope. As far as reentry, reentry starts the day you get incarcerated. That's the day that reentry starts. Like the day you get incarcerated, you're preparing for your release. So just take all the necessary steps. I know, unfortunately, I'm not ashamed to say it. I wish even while I was in prison, I made some other choices, that I did to prepare me, for the future, my future release. But I did make some good choices. And from the time that you are incarcerated, you need to start preparing for your eventual release. So whether that's up to, even though the Department of correction systems nationwide is not giving us the proper tools that we need, we still have to take advantage of whatever they do give us. And, get all the certificates, get all the education you can, just, something there, might prepare you for your eventual release. And as far as parenting, I mean, you know, there's I mean, kids are the best. I don't know. I love, I love kids. You know, I don't understand. You know, it's such a shame that you know, unfortunately, that you have so many mothers and fathers that you know have been taken away from their children's lives. But I mean, just write that letter, get on that phone, you know, check on them every day, make sure they're doing good, ask how their day was at, you know, school, send them pictures, whatever you can, just try to be in their life any way, form or fashion that you can, because it means so much to them. You know, you might not even know it, but it really means so much. And do whatever you can, you know, even if you have to, sometimes you're not getting along with your co-parent, you know, you're not getting along with the child's mother or the child's father, you know, what you know, however the situation is, but just try to make things right just for the kids, you know, just try to do what you need to do for the children. Forget about the little squabbles that are going on outside of that. You know, it's all about the kids. It's all about them.
Well said.
There's nothing else to say after that. It's all about the kids. We thank you so much for being here tonight, Donald. After a long day of work, rushing to come on. Thank you. Like, we really appreciate your time and your insight, your transparency. Thank you so much, and all the best to you. Seriously, get my information from John. Give it to your daughter, so if she needs help with anything, I can help. And if your son needs help with reading stuff, I can help with that too. I can't do math or much more than that. But I can help with reading and his English or ELA work. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate both of you having me and giving me this platform. And yeah, I even though we've never met, Vivett, you know, I love you just because I love John, and you know, you're a part of John. So, you know, so I can't wait till that one day that we can meet, you know, but you know, I appreciate everything.
I would love to meet your wife and speak with her, because again, who feels it knows it. So the wives, the loved ones of those incarcerated, we have a whole other experience with this too. And I'd love to talk with her, and that will happen, because this too shall pass, and we will get together. But
Definitely.
until then, be well. Thank you again. Thank you for all of you for viewing. Thank you, John, for starting off the show tonight. Did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
I'm learning still. Thank you.
Parents Union. Before we go, I just want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. There's still time to register to vote. The things that we talked about here tonight, if you are dissatisfied with your children's education, if you are dissatisfied with the correctional system, if there are things in our society that are troubling to you, your civic responsibility to address them, one way to do that is to vote. You can't vote if you're not registered to vote. To those who may be formerly incarcerated, check to see your state's rules. Many formerly incarcerated men and women have now been granted the ability to vote, even if you are on parole or on probation. So please check that out. We have that information on our website and on the National Parents Union's website. Please vote. Please get out and vote. Like, please, the National Parents Union has an initiative. Every family votes, because we need to show our children what to do. This needs to be a family affair, because we're trying to make a better world for now and for the future. So with that being said, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you again, all being well, on Thursday. Have a good night.
Speak your truth.
Night.
Good.
Good night.